from conflict towards cooperation against the urgent threats of climate change and disease.
We are not seeking a new Cold War or a world divided into rigid blocks. The United States is ready to work with any nation that steps up and pursues peaceful resolution to shared challenges.
For more, let's bring in our New York Bureau Chief Shelley Banjo here. Shelley, it's a busy week here in New York, right? Let's start with Biden's comments on China and not seeking a new Cold War.
Yeah, Biden basically spent a big part of his speech drawing a line, drawing a difference between what the U.S. is trying to pursue around democracy and saying no to authoritarianism. He didn't mention China specifically. He didn't say the word China. He did mention Xinjiang, however, but he did not call out China specifically. But the message was clear. You know, we want to really display a difference between what the U.S. is pursuing and what China is pursuing, to try to get nations around the world to take the U.S. seriously again from a foreign.
Hey, starts in about 12 minutes. I made not kalbi, that Alex's favorite thing, beef short ribs, and then vegetable and shrimp. An hour and a half. When is Joe coming? Okay.
Tomorrow, right?
Yeah, tomorrow's good. Yep.
Hello, Professor.
Happy Tuesday.
How's it going?
Well, I'm trying to set up for the course. I'm doing well. How about you?
Doing great as well.
Did you work
Um,
today?
Yeah, I just got off of work right now. Yeah,
Yeah, I think everyone in this class, they work full time somewhere.
yeah, bro. The traffic was so crazy today from coming from I don't know if you live in Northern Virginia.
I do.
Yeah, coming from towards DC to Woodbridge.
Mhm.
My God, it was just a parking lot. I was having a
Were you
hard time.
on, were you on 66 or 395?
395.
Yeah, that's a hit or miss.
Yeah. Normally it's like 24 minutes. Today
Yep.
was like an hour and 6 minutes. So yeah, it was.
Wow.
Tired, yeah. I was having a
So
hard time.
you know, the choice I have to make is whether I should take the express lanes.
Yeah,
It can be pricey.
yeah. Like in the morning, it's like maybe like $11,
Mhm.
and then in the way back, it's like 9. So I'm like, and then every day, that can get a little bit, it can
Oh
add up.
yeah. When I used to go into DC for consulting, I would pay like $20 express lane to get in, $20 to park,
Oh my
$10 for sandwich, and $15 or $20 to get home.
God. Damn.
Crazy.
Yeah, it's too much. I actually had a question. I think last class you had also recorded as well. I didn't see it inside the Zoom recordings.
So let me, I can't bring up any of the assignments. Okay. So if you go to our course, can you see it?
Yeah.
If you go to Zoom,
Hmm.
cloud recording. Oh, no wonder. I have to turn it on for you.
Okay.
So now you should be able to see it.
All right.
There we go.
Gotcha. There's like no password or anything like that that we have to.
Only thing you have to do, I believe there's here. There's a password. Let me show it to you. Can you see that?
Yeah.
That's the password.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
If you have any problems, just let me know.
Yeah, we'll do.
And then I cannot bring up anyone of this computer. It works on my Mac, but it does not work on. Yep, doesn't work. Oh, I can just download it. That's right. Let's see. That might be better.
Yeah.
Open it this way. Yeah, it works.
I think for my assignment yesterday, I had arranged the boxes like instead of going like left to right, it went the other way around. So
Oh, I remember your graph then. Yes. You have to go from right to left, not right. No,
from
left to right
Yeah.
instead of right
I
to
went the
left.
other way, yeah.
You got everything backwards. Are you like left-handed?
Not really. I'm not. So, but that time when I was doing that, I was actually on my way to New York, so I was doing it inside the car, and I was like,
You're doing it
something
in the
looks off.
car.
I couldn't put my finger on it. What was looking wrong? I was like,
That's
something
good.
looks wrong, but I was like, you know what? It's
No, you got it. You got it right. You're not following the convention. Let me put it that way. All right, we got how many more minutes? Now this clock is wrong. My computer, or my Mac says,
6:21.
yeah, 6:23. There you go. All right, we got that. We got the grades, that, and I can show this. Any questions, concerns, problems with the course?
Not for me.
That's good. Ah, that works. Okay. Hi, Danielle.
Hi, Professor.
Happy Tuesday.
Happy Tuesday to you as well.
The 6:30 class is a little late for me. I gotta change it.
Next semester, right? Not this semester.
Yeah. I mean, I think my dean scheduled a 6:30, recognizing that most of you work and you have to commute, and this gives you sufficient time.
Yeah.
I think the last semester I told students I didn't mind if you ate while in the class, like while participating in the Zoom. And in fact, I had one family, they will put the laptop in front of the dining table and the whole family will watch the that was fun. That was fun. Even the kids were watching it. It was like a Netflix series. And then if you're legal, 21, you have to flash your ID on your screen. Then you can bring your beverage of your choice to the class.
I like you, Professor. Yes.
Oh, no. Once we start doing it, then I get to drink too.
Yeah, we can all just have shots together.
It's like a happy hour.
Right, a happy hour,
I usually drink wine, except, oh my God, this tequila that one of my
Tequila
colleagues.
is too much for me. I'm a wine person. Now that I got older, I love wine.
Oh no, I only drink red
sweet
wine.
I
Oh,
love it.
sweet wine. So you drink white
Yeah,
wine. Okay.
but see now the tequila and stuff, I feel like I'm too old for that.
That's what I said too, except this lady is from Mexico and she said this is the best tequila from Mexico, and apparently it's Oprah's favorite one. And wow, it just blew me away. It is so good, but I'm forbidden to drink tequila at home because apparently I was slurring my words and my wife says, no, you can't drink tequila.
Wifey said no more, just stick to your wine.
Just stick with the wine because I don't get in trouble with the wine. No, I did I used to get in trouble, but our couch is dark brown and it's waterproof. So when I fall asleep at night with the wine glass, you can't tell.
She's gonna put you on a water diet only.
Oh no, she knows that I love red wine. But you know what happens once in a while? I'm watching my Netflix series, and then I fall asleep with the wine in my hand, and then I wake up middle of the night, go to bed, and then when I wake up in the morning, I go to the bathroom, turn the light on, and for a split second, I just go, "Oh my God, she finally did it! She stabbed me." But then I realized this wine stain.
You're like, oh no, it's just the wine. She didn't really stab me.
No. Yeah, that happens once in a while.
What are you watching on Netflix? Like, are you into like any series or do you watch movies?
I got into that lady who was playing chess. That was amazing.
The Queen's Gambit.
Yeah, but then I am addicted to Korean soap opera series. Well, my wife is. And it's funniest thing is she doesn't understand, or maybe she understands 5 words of Korean, but she doesn't understand Korean. But she said, turn it up, turn it up, turn it up. It's like, you're reading subtitles.
Those are sometimes the best to watch though.
Oh, I know. My wife is hooked. She's just dying for the next series to come out and all that stuff. And now there's a tour where we're thinking about going to Seoul, Korea. And then they will take you to all these iconic scenes in the series. I'm like,
no, my daughter had me stuck watching Manifest. I believe that's what it's called.
Manifest is good. My son is watching.
Yeah, so I'm watching that.
Weird.
It's weird, but
it's weird.
Yeah, she got me all into that.
Yeah.
You should watch Ozark. I think you'll probably like Ozark.
What's Ozark?
It's like a show about like money laundering. I mean, like that's kind of
Oh.
Yeah, it's
Oh
not.
yeah, I started watching that like a year ago.
And there's another one, something, well, not there. It's billionaires. It's about hedge fund guys
Oh
managing
yeah,
money, Wall
I haven't
Street.
watched that. I just saw it come up. I didn't watch that one. I didn't really get into that one, but
Yes, yeah, that's supposed to be really good. That's
yeah,
supposed to be.
Ozark. I think like once you get started in it, it's gonna be hard to get off until you don't finish all three
How to
seasons.
spell it? Ozar? Ozar?
Ozark.
Okay, I'll take a look. Netflix, right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, we are waiting on a couple more students. I think I'm gonna get started. The timestamp uses 6:25. It's a little behind. My computer time is a little bit off, and we have, oh wow. We pretty much have everyone. So I'll start in a minute or two. But before I start, any questions, concerns, problems, anything? Okay, I guess that's a good sign. So today is September 21st, so we're gonna go into the third lecture. The first lecture, by the way, there's a scheme to the lecture topics. We start from high level, a more philosophical discussion, like what is economics? And then we go to economic method. How do economists think? And today we're gonna talk about key economic problem that economists are struggling with. And then we go to the market, individual markets, how the markets operate, because we know that when you practice more market economy versus command economy, you tend to get higher productivity. So we want to know why that's the case. So we break it down, and it takes 2 lectures to do that. And then we have a fall break. And then when we come back, we have our quiz. Some of you already emailed me and said, oh no, I don't do well when my quiz is timed and there's a lot of pressure and all that. No worries, quiz is going to be very similar to like weekly assignment. You'll have a week to do it. And I'm going to be honest with you. I mean, I can't control whether you're talking to other people to do the quiz. So, and if you get help from other people to do the quiz, I'm perfectly fine, as long as you turned in your original work. Well, not original work, your own work, individual work, right? And then starting October 26th, we're gonna drill down, actually October 19th, we're gonna get down to the street level. This is like true microeconomics topics. And if you take a course in managerial economics at MBA programs, this is where they will start. These are all micro econ topics of elasticity, which means how sensitive people are to price changes. Production cost is, what's the cost that firms bear when they make things? And the next one is competition. What is the market like when there's a lot of firms competing? The next one is the hottest topic right now, which is what happens to the market if you allow monopolies. And right now, a lot of people think Microsoft is monopoly, well, becoming a monopoly. Amazon is becoming a monopoly. Facebook is becoming a monopoly. And of course, some people think Apple is becoming a monopoly. Netflix is, I mean, these are just big, big, big monster companies, right? So is it good or bad for the society? That's our discussion. And the next one is oligopoly, which means what happens when there are few large firms competing with each other. And the next one is whether we should regulate these guys. I call it the bad boys and girls of the microeconomics. And the last topic is optional. I mean, you don't need to know it for the final exam. But since we have an extra week, we're gonna talk about happiness. And there's a mathematical formula for maximizing your happiness. So if you're somewhat unhappy, you think your happiness could be increasing, then you may want to stay till November 30th. We'll break it down and see how one individual can maximize their utility, which is satisfaction you get from consuming things. So that's the strategy for today. And of course, today, September 21st, we're going to go into the third lecture topic, which is economic problem. Before I do that, thank you very much for those who turned in your assignments on time. The class average is like 4 out of 5, so everyone is doing pretty well. And I just randomly picked one of the 5 work. And frankly, I was looking for something like this, right? A graph showing the relationship between index of economic freedom scores on the x-axis and the GDP per capita on y-axis. Some of you lost some points because you didn't use GDP per capita, you used the aggregate GDP. So it's a GDP per capita, right? It's not, we don't care how big the pizza is, it's how big is individual slice. So we take the GDP divided by the population, that's GDP per capita. And then some of you lost a half a point or maybe a point if you did not put the trend line. Just showing me the dots doesn't mean anything. You have to recognize the pattern. Pattern is there a positive relationship between index score and the GDP per capita, which means the line is going up, or is it negative relationship? And Excel does the trend line for you. And there are two types of trend lines. In undergrads, they tend to work with the linear trend line. You know what that is? Linear trend line, straight lines. It's just basic story, it's straight. But if you get a little bit more sophisticated, then you put a curved trend line, but this line tells me that it is a positive sloping line. So I know that Adam Smith's story still holds today, or his recipe still works today, which is that if you allow individuals to make their own economic decisions, we tend to see greater wealth for your sample countries. I have 2 or 3 students, they didn't maximize, they didn't get full 5 points, because when you were picking 20 economies, you pick economies that are very, very close to the same economic index score. So you have a sampling problem. Whenever your other teachers ask you to get a sample from a population, in order to really understand how the population, what's a population is like, don't get it from one zip code or one category of people or one income group. You need to diversify your sampling. So if you just mixed up your 20 sample countries from different regions, different level of wealth, then you should see better trend line that represents the population. But again, most of you do very well. The class average is 4, which is slightly better than what I usually see in-person classes, which is about 3.5, 3.2 average. So either you guys are getting it or you guys are more serious students, more talented, I don't know what, but thank you, I appreciate the good work. And if you go, and I already posted the next assignment that's due this coming Sunday. And it's relatively easy one. 3 questions you need to address by next Sunday. It's due September 26th. And it should take you about 20 minutes. And it's all based on what we discussed last week, which was economic method. In order to do the second question, the first question is, tell us why marginal analysis, working with marginal analysis, like marginal cost benefit analysis, is superior than working with averages. That's the first one. You may have to think about that a little bit. And working with averages are terrible, because if Bill Gates decides to move into my zip code, guess what's going to happen to my average income in my zip code? It's going to take off. And everyone think, oh my God, only millionaires live in the zip code. But with the averages, it only takes one data point and it could completely misrepresent what's it like for the population. So a lot of people don't work with the averages because you have these outliers that could pull the average up or pull the average down. So as a result, marginal analysis tends to be more superior. And the next one is this wonderful money managing firm run by 2 smart ladies in New York City. And they share with us why they have been so successful in picking stocks for all these years, just like Warren Buffett. It has to do with the rationality, but they take that idea one step further. And the next one, I highly recommend read the lecture notes. Don't try to BS it on your own without reading the notes. It will take you only 10 minutes to read the lecture notes on positive economics versus normative economics, right? We discussed there are 2 ways of looking at the world, what should be and what is. And if you look at the world positively, you're looking at it as what is perspective. And if you look at it normatively, it's what should be, what ought to be. And you just need to explain in your own words why positive way of looking at the world will help you advance your knowledge and advance the field of science. And again, it was took you about 20 minutes or so. And today we're going to talk about economic problem. I suspect this lecture will go till about 7:30 again. It's really a short lecture, but it deals with one of the fundamental problems in economics. By the way, I'm not going to show you this video because I don't think it's proper. But I have to say it's one of the best funny videos about stuff. And the comedian George Carlin talks about why we want more stuff. And it's so obvious because we have an economic problem that we discussed week 1, right? We're cursed with this problem that we want more than what we have. And then we honestly believe if we get just a little bit more stuff, we'll be happy and contented forever. And of course, we also agree that once you get the next stuff, guess what you need? You need more stuff. And the whole comedy skit is about people wanting more stuff. Anyway, so I'm not going to play it, but if you have nothing to watch in Netflix tonight, you may want to click onto that. Really, really funny. And of course, you know the word utility, right? We talked about that last week, utility. We're addicted to more stuff. Main reason is stuff gives us utility, which is satisfaction or drive when we drive from when we consume goods and services. For those of you who joined late, I have a policy. It is after 6 o'clock. And if you are 21 and older, as long as you flash your ID card on the video for 2 seconds, in other words, if you're legal, then you're allowed to drink in the course. Like what? Not in the course, during the course. And then don't get shocked from starting from next week. I may bring a glass of red wine with me. It just makes my lecture go faster. And right now I'm just dying for cold glass of beer. You know why, right? I'm addicted to utility. The first sip you take it, you just go, oh, the feeling of awe is my definition of utility. And I will have that at 7:30. Meanwhile, let's get to the point. Because we have to deal with this fundamental economic problem of our wants being greater than what we have. We said that was the core. We are engaged in 2 types of economic activities. And on the quiz, I'm going to ask you, what are economic activities? Well, in economics, economic activities are things that we do, since they're activities, to deal with the issue of our unlimited wants. So what are the 2 things that we do? One category is production. And you know what production is? We produce things. We make things. And then what's the second category? We consume things. Because when you consume things, consume stuff, then you get utility, and that's what we want. Now, production, you go to, another way of saying is production is you go to work, and then of course you go to work to earn income, and with income, what do? You consume, and that's it. From an economist's point of view, everything you do is either production or consumption to deal with the economic problem. So at this point right now, I'm producing a lecture. So I'm engaged in a production activity, and you guys are consuming my lecture. So you're on the consumption side. And I have a question for someone if anyone wants to answer it. Am I giving this lecture because I care about the students and I want you guys to be successful in your welfare? What do you think?
No.
No, absolutely not. Let's just be honest. I'm giving this lecture. I'm involved in a production activity to do what though? To earn
Money.
income. Yes. And with income, what can I do? I can get
Buy
my
food.
beer and wine. Yeah, exactly.
Drugs.
That's it. Anything what you want, right? But you cannot consume this unless you have income. And how do you get the income? You have to engage in production. You know what I just described? it's a model. You know what model is, right? It's a simplified representation of the real world. It's called circular flow. What do you mean by circular flow? So this is a very simple way of describing how economy operates. How there are two types of people in this picture. Household, that's us. Businesses or firms, and that's the other one. And we are working together in this flow of money. So what are you talking about? We go to work, so that we are factors of production, right? We go to work right there. And when we produce, what do we get? We get income. And with income, what do? We spend, but in economics, we say expenditure. We use our money to do what? To get goods and services. That makes sense. What about businesses? Well, they need to earn their income. How do they do that? They produce goods and services and sells it to households. And we pay for it, which is expenditure. And with the money they earn from us, guess what they do? They buy more labor and then they pay for it, which becomes our income. So at the end of the day, production and consumption activities of household and businesses are interrelated in a circular flow. And when the economy is doing very well, the money flows between these two parties very nicely. But once in a while, there is a shock to the system. We call it exogenous shock. You know what that is? Something that happens outside of the circular flow, and then it screws things up. So back into, well, here we go. With the COVID, we shut the economy down, which means people could not go to work, which means we have no income. Without income, we can't spend, which means businesses were not making monies, so they have to lay off more people. So that was the COVID effect. It literally almost stopped the circular flow to like 80%, 70%. It's almost like getting a clog in your pipe that connects the flow, right? So everything got all screwed up. So the government had to step in to kickstart this thing to get going. So you know what we did? Stimulus checks and government spending. So since we didn't have money to spend, government gave us the income so then we can buy goods and services. So the businesses could earn income so they can start hiring back their workers. And looking at the latest econ data, it looks like the US economy is almost back to where it was. I think we're about 90% back. The water flow is not as strong as 18 months ago, but it's getting closer to what we have experienced. So that's one way to understand how the economy works. But tonight, we're going to focus on production. And next week, we're going to focus on consumption. Whenever I talk about production, I see it as a process or a system. Anything that's involved in production process, production system, it shares the same design. You have inputs and you have outputs. And of course, we measure the outputs. And what do we measure? How much total stuff that we produced in the economy. So we measure the value of all the goods and services. And you know what that is called, right? Gross domestic product. So that's why economists, we love to work with GDP. It tells us how much stuff that we're producing in our production system for the US economy. And last year we produced roughly about $21 trillion worth of stuff. And we measure GDP every year simply because we want to get more stuff because we have unlimited wants. And you don't know whether your production system is going in the right direction or the wrong direction unless you measure GDP every year. And we measure it every year to see whether we are increasing the stuff that we're producing, decreasing the stuff we're producing. And of course, we know that because of COVID shutdown, guess what happened to our GDP? Went down. But now we're coming back, so you would expect the GDP to increase this year. Initially, beginning of this year, we thought it was going to be a strong bounce back. So with the US economy or the GDP will grow by 6%, which will bring us back to where it was. But then now, current estimate is US economy is only going to grow about 4% because of Delta variant. People are canceling flights and things like that. So we're not going to be fully back. Now, in order to make $21 trillion worth of stuff, what are the inputs that go into production system? In economics, there are 4 types of inputs: land, physical capital, labor, and entrepreneurship. The word I cannot spell. Now, on the quiz, I'm going to ask this question though. What are the 4 categories of inputs that go into production process, US production process? When we say land, it means natural resources. If you're a religious person, it's the gift from our God. If you're not a religious person, it's all the stuff that's blessed by Mother Nature, all the natural resources. And United States, we're very fortunate. We have lots of natural resources. And the next one is capital, or most textbooks call it physical capital. And if this was a finance class, capital means money. But in economics, capital means these are tools, investment goods, like the manufactured good stuff that we use to produce things. What are you talking about? So I'm giving a lecture, so I'm involved in a production process. In order to give this lecture, I need tools. What are the tools? I need my computer. I need my headphone. And these are capital, physical capital, the things that we use to make things. And again, United States, we have lots of physical capital. We got airports, we got bridges, trains, airplanes, all these tools that's available to us. And the last one, the third one is labor. The definition of labor is just individuals going to work every day. And out of 330 million Americans, according to the latest census, about half of us, about 155 million of us, we go to work every day. So that's our labor force. That's the amount of labor we put into production system. And the last one is a weird thing, and I can't define it. And I need someone's help on the quiz, because I am going to ask, what is the best definition of entrepreneurship? Or some people call it human capital. It's not a labor. It's not a physical capital. It's like human capital. So what the hell is human capital? Well, here's one way I can illustrate it. I have a very interesting breakdown of how much stuff, like how much like inputs are required to make an iPad. Now this iPad, I believe it cost about $590. I think it was $599. So it's like $600 iPad. And if you take apart the iPad and say, okay, how much labor did it get in? It's less than $20, because all those people working in Taiwan assembling iPad, they get paid maybe $3-4 an hour. So that's the amount of labor. Okay, so what about the land stuff, the natural resources going in? When you put it all together, except for a couple of rare minerals that you need for transistors, it just adds up to about $100 worth of stuff. So with the labor and land, it's about $150. And then what's the other one then? Capital, the machines that you need to make this thing. Now that's a little expensive, but on a per unit basis, it's roughly about $100. You know what that means though? Here's a laptop, here's an iPad that costs about $600, and the land, labor, capital make up only $200 of it. So other $400, the cost of making things. Well, actually, I need to take the profit out for Apple. So other $300 that the cost of making this iPad, it went to, what do you think? What type of resource they went in? Entrepreneurship. You know what that entrepreneurship is? Engineers, designers who are working in California, they are getting most of the money, because in today's economy, entrepreneurship seems to be the most valued input going into production process. That's why top 10 jobs or top 10 job openings all have that, not all, 9 out of 10 have this same word, engineering. So I'm thinking entrepreneurship is special knowledge the way you put things together is a design. Whatever Steve Jobs did in his garage when he started Apple, like his special recipe to put iPhone together, that's entrepreneurship. And we call that human capital. So I have a quiz for you. In the old days, if you want to be wealthy, which one was the most important input? Okay, no guesses. Land. If you had land in old days, you were wealthy. Nowadays, land, no, farmers are struggling. It's not the machines. It's not the labor. We have so many people. We got literally 4 billion laborers out there in the globe, especially after China and India joined the global labor force and with the outsourcing. It's really the entrepreneurs, the people with special knowledge, things like that. They're the one who's getting wealthy. So if you look at all the billionaires on the Forbes list of billionaires, there are only 2 types. Not athletes, anything like that. If you want to be a billionaire, if you want to be a millionaire, you could be a super athlete. If you want to be a billionaire, there are only 2 classes of people. One, you are like Warren Buffett, really good at managing money, investing. And then second category, entrepreneurs. The person who founded Tesla, person who found Apple, well, Tim Cook is billionaire now, things like that. So entrepreneurship is very important now. So that's the message. By the way, if you're a nerdy person, this is your time. Nerds are in. They make good money now. All right, let's keep going. So how good is the US production system? In order to answer that question, we're going to look at the GDP by rank. So here we go. These are the rankings as of 2017. And United States, we have the best production system. We produce more stuff during a 1 year than anyone else. Close to us is the European Union, but I don't know whether I could count European Union because European Union is made up of 22 European countries. They banded together to form what's known as EU. You know why they got all together though, right? Because they were getting tired of United States being the 800-pound gorilla in the economic market. We were just too big. So they wanted to counter US by banding together. And even they took it to one more step, which is let's have a one common money currency. Instead of having Deutschmark, Spanish pesetas, Italian liras, now they have euro. And sure enough, when they band together, it's about the same size as the United States. But then, of course, everyone is talking about China because they are at 12 trillion. But the problem is China is growing at roughly 6-7% a year, and the US is growing at 2% a year. So you know what the implication is? In about 20 years, guess who's going to be bigger? It's going to be China. Yeah, if you want to know why businesses are curtailing to China and they don't want to leave China despite all the issues in China, is because it's going to be the largest market in 20 years. And Japan used to be number 2, but they have not grown at all in the last 20 years. And you know why they're not growing? Their number one problem is the population is getting not only older, but smaller. So when you have less inputs, then you're going to get less outputs. So Japan is in a very bad situation because the economy is not growing. And Germany is also very similar. I mean, they're growing, but it's not as much, and so on and so on and so on and so on. By the way, someone should say, you know, Professor Min, this doesn't tell us anything because you told us that in order to assess, in order to evaluate how good production system is working, who cares about how big the pizza is? What do we care about? What's the size of the slice you're going to get, right? So really, we should not be looking at GDP number. We should be looking at GDP per capita. So if we do, let's see what happens. So here's GDP per capita ranking. Ta-da! The richest country in the world is Liechtenstein, but it really doesn't count. It's really a city with all these banks for rich people. Qatar doesn't really count because that's really oil. Macau doesn't count because that's all gambling from China. Monaco doesn't count because it's all rich people are living there because they don't have to pay taxes. Luxembourg doesn't count because, again, that's a city in a near France area, and they have all these banks. And definitely Bermuda doesn't count because I don't know whether you guys been to Bermuda. If you go downtown Bermuda, you see nothing but all these banks because they want rich people to move to Bermuda. So they don't have to pay taxes to the US, Uncle Sam. Singapore, maybe. So Singapore is the richest legitimate state in the world with the $94,000 per person, and so on and so on and so on. And I've been tracking this and we've been falling behind. We used to be always in top 10, but now we're at $60,800 per person. Now that was, I'm sorry, because our growth rate is, we used to grow at 3% a year consistently, but now we're growing at 2% a year. So we're not growing as fast as we have been. And we'll discuss why we're not growing as fast as we have second half of the lecture. But Switzerland, they're doing very well. Now, United States right now, the current GDP per capita is estimated to be about $64,000, $65,000 per person, which is still very good. But then let's keep going. France is 44,000. South Korea is at 40,000. By the way, when you get to $40,000, maybe upper $38,000, $39,000 and above, you're officially considered to be wealthy country. In fact, you get invitation to OECD, which is the Organization of Economic Cooperative Development. It's a club for rich countries. And South Korea got in because I've been following South Korea for years. And it used to be all the way down to 18,000, and every year has been moving up because South Korea has done a good job growing. And then you got Spain at 38,000, Italy at 38, Israel at 35, so on and so on. Oh, by the way, guess what happened to China? Let's go find China. Mexico at 19,900. There we go, China, 18,200. So I've been to China, I've been to Mexico, and their living standards are about the same, like 18, 20,000, which is now middle income countries. And if you fall below 10,000, so countries like Armenia, Jordan, Jamaica, Bhutan, Ukraine, now you're in the, I don't want to say poor neighborhood, so let's make it a less wealthy neighborhood, and so on. And then it goes all the way down to 700. So, oh, where's Mexico? I was invited to speak at this conference in DC a couple of years ago. It was about Mexico, and the key question, there we go, 19,000. The key question they came up was, what can we do to address the south of the border issue? And we know what's going on down there, right? So how we fix it? And I said, I stood up, and it was my turn to speak. And I said, look, I'm an economist. I see the world for what it is, whether it should be this way, should be that way. I don't do that stuff. It's a waste of time. But let me tell you this, if you want to fix this problem, you cannot build a wall. You have to do something different. And they said, well, what can you do? And I said, look, if you go to Annandale today, Annandale, Virginia, they are body snatchers. I'm sure you guys heard of it, right? Body snatchers? No, anyone? Okay, so this is weird. It's the crazy thing that's happening in Annandale. Annandale has a lot of Korean shops. So on Saturdays, I go to Annandale to get Korean lunch. I get the Korean barbecue. And then I get my haircut once a month. And let's say someone is posting something on the chat. Elon Musk says China will have economy 2 to 3 times the size of US soon. Yeah, it can be possible. It could be possible. It could be possible because Anyway, so we don't want to digress, but I agree with Elon Musk because he knows China really well because they're building Tesla. By the way, GM sells more cars in China than US. Tesla sells more cars in China than US. I mean, China is a massive market because they got 1.5 billion people. So there are 5 times more potential consumers there. So if you are a business, if you can find something you can sell in China, you will be billionaire. I mean, it's as simple as that. And they're still growing faster than us. Now, going back to the body snatchers. So I get my haircut. This happened again last year. I go to the same barbershop and then, well, they don't call it barbershop, it's hairdressing shop. And I go to hairdressing shop and I said, oh my God, where's Mrs. Lee? My regular person. And the owner said, oh, she is in Korea. I said, oh, okay, good for her. When is she coming back? And then they say, she's not coming back. You know what happened? It's called reverse immigration. So what happened was Miss Lee said that US is the land of dream. I'm going to go to the United States and try to make it big. And this happens all the time. I run into these folks all the time. They get entry-level jobs, retail jobs, hospitality jobs, whatever it might be. They may go to school on the side, whatever it might be. But guess what they find out? US is damn hard too. So then they spend 3, 4, 5 years, and then guess what they say? Well, South Korea is doing pretty well. Economy is up to almost 40,000. It's not that bad in South Korea. I'm going back. And now what's happening is that there's a reverse immigration in United States with the Koreans. They give it a shot. If it doesn't work out, they go back because quality of life at home is kind of comparable to United States. So you take a shot. If it doesn't work, they go back. So I said, look, if you want to address the south of the border issue, instead of building a wall, we got to help Mexico grow their economy. Did anyone get that? And I said, I guarantee you that if Mexican GDP per capita gets to be about 40,000, even 35,000, we will address the south of the border problem. They will come, those, especially young folks. The old folks, they were not going to come because life at home is going to be okay. The young people will come, give it a shot at the American dream. If it doesn't work out, they will go back because the life in Mexico would be very, very good at $40,000, $35,000 per GDP per capita. So we should help Mexico grow instead of building a wall. And of course, people didn't like that response. Anyway, so then question is, if you ask me, okay, John, how can we help Mexican economy grow? Not just Mexican economy, all these poor economies down here. And as an economist, we have an answer because we have a model. You know what model is, right? Simplified representation of the real world. And we simplified the economy and the production process. And now using this model, we can figure out what steps we have to take to grow any economy. And this model is called production. There we go. Production possibilities model. So this would be your second economic model that you're being introduced. The first one is the circular flow. The second one is production possibilities model. And it's a very simple model. It says, any given point, you have a limited resources. You know, those 4 types of resources. You have a fixed quantity of resources. I got that. With the fixed quantity of resources, you can either produce butter. In other words, put all your resources into production of butter. When I say butter, I'm not talking about real butter. When economists talk about butter, we're talking about social spending things like free education, free medical coverage, social security, welfare, food stamp, things like that. So we can put all our resources into providing social stuff to our citizens. How much is possible? This much is possible. 0 to this much. And then, oops, let me do this. I got to remove the chat because it's getting in the way. Or remember, economics is about making choices, right? Or we can put all the resources into guns. In other words, put it into defense programs like military, missiles, and fortresses, and battleships, and things like that. How much is possible? From here to there. So the reason why this model is called production possibilities model, this much butter is possible given the resources and the technology you have, and this much guns are possible. So these are two possibilities. We're going to connect the line, and that line is called production possibilities frontier, because that line tells you what is possible. So you know what this line is telling you? Any combination of butter and guns are possible. Did everyone get that? So I could be here, which means given the resources and technology I have, I will have lots of butter, but little bit of guns. And then let's say you want more guns. Well, if you want more guns, we need to go from here to there. Then guess what this model is telling you? If you want more guns from here and you want this much more guns, then guess what this model is telling you? Given the resources you have and the technology, what is your butter production is going to be? It's going to come down. So if you want more guns, you have to give up butter. Remember, we live in a world of no free lunch. Everything you do has what? Opportunity cost, and that's exactly, and this model shows exactly how much you have to give up butter to get more guns. What if you want more butter? Okay, if you want more butter, then you have to give up more guns, and that's the trade-off. So we live in a world of opportunity cost, no free lunch, or another way of saying we live in a world of trade-off. Okay, so that's a very simple model. By the way, if you have nothing else to do, you may want to click onto this link, go to this calculator. It tells you how much it cost to be in Iraq and Afghanistan since 2001. And because we spend trillions of dollars there on guns, what do we give up in the US? And you will be stunned. You know what we gave up? All the money we spent on Afghanistan and Iraq, if we put it into butter, we could provide free college education to anyone who wanted to go in the United States, both public and private. That's what we get. Whether we should have done that or not, that's a normative argument. That's a political decision. As an economist, because we spent trillions of dollars in Middle East, we had to give up something. And as a teacher, I know that we could have had free college education for everyone since 2001. And was it worth it? I don't know. But as an economist, we want to do cost benefit analysis, and I can figure out the opportunity cost in terms of butter, right? So you can kind of try it for yourself. It's really interesting. So one thing you should need to know, this is going to be on the quiz. So here's a production possibilities model. Only difference between what we just looked at and now is instead of being a linear line, the frontier, it is curved. And in fact, it's known as concave line. And we call this concave line because it looks like you're walking into a cave. So that means it's curved. And I'll explain what's the difference between the two in the next 5 minutes. But here's the part that most important part for tonight. If you can understand this, then you got it. Okay, so given the resources you have, you can produce guns and butter. I got that. And this is the frontier. So I can be at any combination of guns and butter. If I want lots of guns, I could be a B, but then I only get a little bit of butter. If I want lots of butter, I need to be a point C, because then I get lots of butter. But again, you have to give up guns, so I only have this much gun. If you want a balanced production, then I guess you want to be somewhat in the middle, because then you have this much guns and this much butter. Okay, got it. But then question is can we be at point A? Can we be below the frontier? What do you think? Yeah, Jonathan says yeah. You know why? When you have things like unemployment, you know what that means? We're not using our resources fully and efficiently. When we waste our resources, then we cannot be at what is possible. Did everyone get that? We're going to be below. So anytime economy is below their frontier, then I know that we're not getting what is possible, both in terms of guns and butter, because we're wasting resources. And that's really painful for an economist, because at the end of the day, we have limited resources. We have to deal with scarcity. and we have unlimited ones. We want to get much of stuff that is possible, but you're telling me that we're below what we could be because we're wasting resources. And as an economist, number one thing I look at every single month is how many people want to work, but they cannot find jobs, which is the definition of unemployment. And we still have 7.5 million Americans. They want to work and they're actively looking for a job, but they cannot find it. Well, to me, that's a waste of resources. And when you waste resources and when you don't use available technology to get the most out of it, then we're going to be below the frontier. So if you're below the frontier, how do we at least get to the frontier? I don't care whether we go to the left, to the right. Let's just get to the frontier. How do we do that? You need to satisfy these two conditions, which you need to know for the quiz. The quiz question is going to be, how do you get to the frontier? And the question is, well, I know you have a limited resources, but you have to employ all of them. So we need full employment of resources. So there's no waste. And this is a fancy word. We need to ensure productive efficiency. What's a production efficiency? Let's use all the available cost-effective technology that's out there. Let's not just use bad technology. Let's use the best knowledge, best technology to get the most out of it. So when you have a full employment and productive efficiency, then you get to the frontier. Now, once you get to the frontier, should we go to the right? Should we go to the left? As an economist, I really don't give a crap. You know why? Because definition of economics is we want to get the efficient use of our scarce resources, right? That's how we defined it week one. Once we get to the frontier, I know that we're using our resources efficiently. But should we go to the right? Should we go to the left? To me, that's a normative question again. And I'll leave it up to the politicians to decide. But really, you know who decides every 4 years whether we should go to the right, to the left? The voters. To me, presidential election is the very important event. We all get together once every 4 years and say, should we want more guns instead of butter? Or should we get more butter and give up more guns? And whether you agree and not agree with Biden administration, you know what he wants, right? He wants more butter at the expense of less guns. And right now they're debating in Congress $3.5 trillion worth additional spending, which will provide more buttery things. One thing that really may affect you is they're thinking about making community college tuition free in the US. I think that's going to happen. And the main reason why it's going to happen is Mrs. Biden is a teacher at Nova. Actually, she's my cube mate. And that's her wish list. She wants to make community colleges free. So I know Biden has to somehow get that done. But they're also thinking, if you have student loans, by the way, guess what Biden administration is thinking? Help you pay off some of that financial aid. They're debating whether 10,000 or 20,000, they're going back and forth, back and forth. They're thinking about increasing Medicaid. They're thinking, oh, and the child credit tax. I'm sure you guys know what that is. If you have a child, if you have a child, guess what? Uncle Sam will drop a couple $100s for each child in your bank account. To me, that's using our resources on butter versus guns, and we're going this direction. And I'm okay as long as we vote every 4 years and decide. But as an economist, I'm more interested in next question. How do we get to point X outside the frontier? Is that possible? What do you think? There are two answers. Easy
Anything is
answer. Well, there are two answers. One answer is no. Given the resources you have, given the technology you have, the frontier is telling you what is possible. So what you're striving for is something that's impossible. Okay, I get that. Another answer is, yeah, it is possible if you do following things. If you get more resources, guess what? You get to produce more. So if you get more resources, then you get to shift the production possibility frontier to the right. So line would be like this. Oh, I think I have a, where is it? Do I have it? No, I should get another graph showing the line shifting. So when you get more resources, then this line will shift to the right. Makes sense? So how do you grow? Get more resources. There's another way to grow. How do you shift the frontier to the right? You don't have to get more resources if you can improve the technology. Did anyone get that? Then you can get more from the same amount of resources. Like improving the efficiency of your car engine, right? Instead of getting 20 miles per gallon, if you have a better engine, you get 60 miles per gallon. Yeah, it's with the same amount of gasoline, you get to go more, you get to do more. And so this answer is very simple. How can Mexican economy grow? Two ways. Get more natural resources, or get more resources, labor, natural resource, everything. Get more, or improve the technology. And I think someone says, how can we beat China in terms of growth? Very simple, according to the model. Either we increase resources or we improve technology. Oh, by the way, when economy wants to grow, which one is easier to do? Getting more resources or improving technology? What do you think?
I would say resources.
Yes, you're absolutely correct. In fact, if you look at all the wealthy empires in the past, they experienced wealth, like Romans and the Mongols and the Chinese Empire and the Persian Empire. They became extremely wealthy by conquering neighbors. They just simply took over the resources of their neighbors and used them. And that's why they got wealthy. And that's the easiest way to do it. And that's why military became so important in the old days. But nowadays it's kind of uncool. It's politically incorrect to just invade your neighbors. Although I said this out of joke, but this is a joke. I'm not serious about this. So don't report to anyone. But I told once to my students, I know the easiest way for the United States to increase our wealth, like right away. And I said, well, how do you do that? Because improving technology takes time, because you got to do research and development and improve education. It takes years to improve technology. And we don't know when the next big technology is going to be. Is it Internet 2.0? Is it nanotechnology 2.0? Oh, I know what it is. It's AI and robots. They're coming, but it's taking time. It's taking time. But what if you don't have the patience? How do we grow really fast? I said, I have a plan. We should invade Canada, because we have the best military in the world. Canadian military is tiny and they're very nice. We should be able to take over entire Canada in like 7 days. And then we take over all the natural resources and oil and all that stuff, and that will fuel the growth. And then I said, you know what we should do with Canadian? This is where I got in trouble. This was a joke, but it's qualified joke. You know what? We should just slave them. And then we will have free labor, and then economy grows. And the people thought, oh my God, how could you say that? Well, no, that's exactly how the Romans got wealthy, how the Vikings got wealthy, Romans got wealthy, Persians got wealthy, Chinese got wealthy. They enslaved people, and that's one way to grow. But no, of course, that's not a proper thing to do. I admit it. So now we need to invest in technology. Oh, by the way, there's one really smart president we had. A lot of people think he was not that smart, but I think it's brilliant. His name is Bush, the second Bush, not the first one. He found a way to shift the frontier to the right without increasing resources and without improving technology. And it's brilliant. You know what he did? Because he wanted to have more guns for Iraq, war in Iraq, but then he wanted to get reelected. So he wanted to get senior citizens to vote for him, because they're the strongest voters, not strongest, like they vote percentage-wise more than anyone else. So they, I don't want to say he bribed them, but he gave them a gift, which is expanded Medicare on prescription drugs, which would cost billions of dollars. But we want to give cheap prescription drugs to senior citizens. So he spent more money on butter, more money on guns. In other words, he was able to shift the frontier to the right without getting additional resources, improving technology. You know how I did it, right?
Sorry, your word.
No, he borrowed. He did deficit spending. So he spent money he didn't have. That's a definition of borrowing. So you know what borrowing is? You take the resources that's available in the future and you use it now. Only problem with that strategy is what though? When you in the next generation, amount of resources that's available is going to be smaller. What would happen to the frontier of the next generation? It's going to shift to the left instead of shifting to the right. Another way of saying is because we have so much debt, because not only Bush second did it, Trump did it, Biden is doing it, we are borrowing money to spend now. In other words, we're taking the resources from future generation. So if you're age on below 35, that's what I'm talking to you right now. We're taking your resources and spending it now so we can have more guns and butter. Problem is, when you are running the economy, guess what's going to happen? You're not going to have enough resources. We're going to have less resources. So the production possibility frontier is going to shift to the left. As a result, economists are saying that the next generation, I feel really bad for my kids, they're in early 20s. I tell them all the time, you're the first generation in the United States where standard of living, GDP per capita, is expected to, what do you think? It's really sad, decline. Yeah, in the United States, every single generation, they were better off than the previous generation. In many respects, that's definition of American dream. You come to the United States and your kid's gonna be better off than you, and their kid's gonna be better off. And we have done it every generation, which is every 25 years since the inception. But now we're looking at, we have so much debt, which means we borrow so much from the future or took future resources that the next generation, unless you guys can figure out some amazing technology, your standard of living is going to decline. And actually Bush was correct. And so he's counting on the fact that you guys will discover next internet, something that's going to really transform the economy. So even though you have less resources, you will be able to produce more stuff. So you will not have declining standard of living, but I don't think that's going to happen because money that we're spending in education and research and development has been going down, 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 down. So I feel really bad for you guys if you're under the age of 35. That's one thing I would say. All right, one last thing. So why is it first time you showed us the production possibility frontier, it was a straight line. But then now you're showing us curve. What's the difference? Well, the difference is if I draw a straight line, that means the trade-off between guns and butter is always going to be constant. So for the same amount of guns, I have to give up same amount of butter because the slope of the line is constant. So if I want more, I have to give up guns. If I want a little bit more, I have to give up guns, and so on and so on and so on. If we draw it like this, we're saying, like concave, we're saying, yeah, there is a trade-off between guns and butter, but it's not constant. What are you talking about? When you initially want a little bit more butter, so if you want to go to the right, then amount of guns you have to give up is tiny. But then if you want more, then you have to give up a little bit more. And if you want more, then you have to give up a lot more. And at the very end, if you want a little bit more, you have to give up a huge amount. So instead of having a constant trade-off, we have an increasing trade-off. In most textbooks, they call it increasing opportunity cost. And since these are representation of the real world, which map or which graph is more accurate? And what I have found is that it's the increasing. And let me tell you why. My son gave me a gift to Gold's Gym one year, like a membership. So I went there first time, and first day was really fun. They had a trainer that followed me around, showed me everything, and he asked me, "Hey John, what would you like to do?" "I like to work out with serious people." Then he says, "You need to go to that area, which is a free weight room." So I went there, and a couple of high school football players from Robinson, they were lifting, and I said, "Hey dudes, do you mind if I jump in?" "No problem." Well, right away, I realized, whew, the bar itself, the bench press bar, you know how much it weighs? 45 pounds, no problem. I did a couple reps. And then that was it. Then I went home. Next time I went, I did a couple reps and I was able to add 10 and 10. So I was benching 65. And then I went home. And then next week I came in, I was able to add another 10 and 10. So I'm benching 85. And then fourth time I went, something strange happened. I thought I could add another 10 and 10, but guess what? I could only add 5 and 5. It's like, oh, damn, I only improved by 10 pounds instead of 20. And I went home. Sixth time I went back, I was not able to add any more weights. It's like getting harder and harder. So I went to that trainer and said, look, this is bogus. Like I was improving 10 pounds, 10 pounds, 5 pounds, and now 0. What am I doing wrong? Guess what he says? John, if you want to improve marginally, the stuff you have to give up, it's not constant. You can't just come once a week and expect to improve exactly the same rate. Guess what he asked me to do? You need to take it more seriously. In other words, it's going to cost you more to constantly improve 10 pounds. So in other words, you live in a world of increasing opportunity cost. If you want to keep improving 10 pounds, you may want to spend more time in the gym. You need to come more often. You need to watch out for your diet. You may want to take some protein pill. You're too skinny anyway. And you may want to consider steroids and so on and so on. I'm like, whoa, that's too costly. I'm not doing that. And I quit. So based on that experience, we live in a world of increasing opportunity cost. By the way, if you want to get a C in this course, all you got to do, it's not going to cost you that much. Just show up, listen to the lecture, and just take some notes and review the lecture notes, and you have a good shot at getting a C. Now, what if you want to get a B? I'm going to say it's going to cost you more. You can't just do that. You got to actually read the notes, watch the videos, and ask questions and follow up again. What if you want to get an A? It's going to cost you the same amount? No, it's going to cost even more. Now you got to read the notes, do the problem sets, run through all the examples, and make sure you go review the assignments before the test. And some of you might say, that's not worth it. I just want B. So I'll leave it up to you. That's why I have a lot of respect for super athletes. These people are really good at doing something. You know what I know about these guys? They gave up everything at the end, the incremental gain, to be the number one. In other words, they just gave up everything to be the best tennis player, best sprinter, best musician, and that's why we only have few of these guys, because all of us, including me, I'm not willing to give up all that much at the end, because we live in a world of increasing opportunity costs. Whoever designed this world made a flaw. If we lived in a world of constant opportunity costs, we would be all super athletes, because it doesn't take that much work to be good at something. That's when they were saying it. Now, if you are a little confused about my explanation, I have 2 videos you could watch, assuming you want to get a B in this course. Well, no, if you want to get a B, just watch the first video. If you want to get an A, you got to watch 2 videos. It's going to cost you a little bit more. These videos are made by your former students in my class. That was an extra, that was one of the assignments they had to do. They had to create a video explaining why we live in a world of increasing opportunity costs. So these are the best 2 videos my former students put together explaining it. If you watch 1, you will get a B. If you watch 2, you will get an A. So I leave it up to you. And if you don't want to put any more work other than tonight's lecture, I'm perfectly fine, but you're going to get a C. I'm pretty sure. All right, so we talked about that. So now here's the question that we're going to ask. Oh, here we go. This is when you get more resources, improve technology, then you can grow the economy. And if you waste resources and you don't use all the available technology, then you fall below the frontier. So that's a nice way to summarize. Now the question is, United States, let me enlarge it. United States, are we relatively better off than others because we have a lot of resources, or we have better technology? What do you think? In other words, are we wealthy in the United States because we work harder or we work smarter? So in order to answer the question, this is a wonderful graph because this tells you how many hours an average American works. Did anyone get that? And we are here. So average Americans work about 1,700 hours during the year. How does it compare with other economies? We don't work as hard as China because they work extra 400 hours. Not as hard as Singapore, they work extra 500 hours. South Korea, they work hard. They used to be all the way up here, but they decided that was it's just people were just getting exhausted. Japan is an amazing country. Japan used to be all the way up here, 2,400 hours. So they were working really hard, putting a lot of labor into the economy, right? But then they start having this disease. I don't know the Japanese word for it. Translation is death by overwork. You know what that is? They were finding people in subways in evening commute just dying in their seats because they were working just so many hours. So now they have a policy, national policy. You don't work on Sundays. I don't think you work on Saturdays, and they were able to reduce it. But again, United States, I think we are a little bit below the average. So we don't work as hard as these countries, but more than Germany, Netherlands, and France and Switzerland. Germany is like crazy from economist point of view. They work only 1,300, well, 1,350. You know what that means though? Every German has 6 weeks of vacation, guaranteed. On top of that, they get 2 weeks of religious holidays and things like that. So literally they only work 10 months out of the year, maybe less. And then they retire early. So they choose not to work as much. And so when you look at GDP per capita, you go, oh, okay. They could be higher if they work like us, or if they work like people in Singapore or Hong Kong, they will be super wealthy. They will more than likely surpass us, but they choose not to. It's their lifestyle. But then this is productivity. You know what productivity is, right? How much stuff you get for 1 hour of work. And idea is if you have good technology, you should be able to get more stuff per hour. So if you go to the right, you're working smarter. In other words, you have a better technology. If you go to the left, then you have a bad, not a good technology, worse technology. In United States, we are right here. So on average, United States, we don't work as hard as a lot of people, but we're below the average, but we're above the average in working smarter. So our technology is pretty good. As good as, no, Germans a little bit ahead of us. And you remember Switzerland, they're wealthier than us on a GDP per capita basis. Main reason is, although they work about 200 hours less than us, but their technology is better. When you put it together, they surpass us. So if you're looking for a model, I would look for Switzerland because they're working really smart and not as hard as us. So ideally, we want to go to the right and we want to go down, which means we want to improve technology and maybe we'll all work 4 days a week or 3 days a week. I mean, that's the smart path in my opinion. But I don't think we're improving our productivity because our productivity gain has stalled in the last 10 or 15 years because we're not investing in education and research and development and things like that. So putting it all together, conclusion is United States, are we wealthy? Not wealthy? Yes, we're wealthy, but we work hard and we work smart, but we are falling behind some of the other countries we compete against. That's the conclusion. All right, so that being the case, let's go to the most important part and then we're done for the day. This is a quote from George Washington, right? George Washington said that if someone gives you a saw and asks you to go into a forest and cut down a tree, you know the first thing you have to do? Instead of asking how many trees you want me to cut, so you have to figure out how many hours you have to work. More important question is, well, the more important thing you need to do, you sharpen the saw first. And the whole idea of working smarter is sharpening your saw. And if you want to get more stuff in the economy, even for yourself, my recommendation is don't focus on how many hours you have to work. That's a losing strategy because at the end of the day, you only got 24 hours. You need to focus on how many stuff you get per hour. So I tell my son all the time, don't think about how many hours you want to work. Focus on how you can improve how many dollars you make per hour. And if you make enough dollars per hour, then you don't even have to work full 8 hours or even 6 hours or 4 hours, and you get the same income. And that's the strategy. And that's what the production possibility model is telling us. When we get to the next class, we're going to plunge into the first part of the market lecture. And then we'll finish it up with the second part of the market lecture. And that's when you get to see our third model, which is the supply and demand model. And I'm sure if you never took an econ class, you heard of supply and demand. That's exactly the model we're gonna discuss. And if you ever wanna become a trader, in other words, you're buying and selling things to make money on the Wall Street, then supply and demand model is the most important model that you need to know. It will give you the model so that you can figure out whether price of something will go up or the price of something will go down. And that's what we're going to discuss next week. Oops, sorry, I went a little bit too long today. Any questions, anything else? If you're all set, then have a good evening. You can log off. If you have questions, do stay.
Okay, bye, Professor.
Bye,
Good
Professor.
night.
Take care.
Have your wine next class.
Bye.
Yep, remember, you have to show your ID before you can drink.
Got you.
Nah, I have a beard. Allow me to show my ID.
All right, any questions? No, that's good.
Thank you, Professor.
All right, good night. Have a wonderful time.
Good night, sir.